So, hopefully we'll get there. Good. All right. Everyone ready? Okay. Let's get us started with our, you want to do it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, I'm going to do clip.
No. I was gonna present, I was like, I don't know anything, I'm like, Eric.
I'm going to present, and then I'm going to be like, oh, shoot.
Yeah. You do.
So you're saying to start?
Just start.
Just start? Go. Okay,
Here we go.
Here we go, everybody. Thank you for being here today. We're going to, the school board workshop, we're really going to focus on a fishbowl of our PLC process. And we have an amazing fourth grade team here from Mission View that we're going to hear from here in a little bit, but we're going to kind of set the stage for them here in just a moment. But also, in true fashion, we want to start with an inclusive auditor. So here's how this is going to work real quick. We're going to find you an AD partner. You're going to share your name and your role, and you're going to share something you're looking forward to regarding our PLE learning session today. So around what you're going to see in the fishbowl today. So you can think about that for a second, the prompt, share something you're looking forward to regarding our PLC learning session. Here's how you're going to find your AD partner. I want you to hold up your month of your date of birth. And you're going to find someone with the closest month to your month of birth. And you're going to find your AD partner. And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to share these two prompts. And go. Go find your AD partner right now, please. I think you guys participate. I see how it is. So this is the first start. Yeah, I was like,
right?
all right, sounds like we're about wrapping up. We can return back to our seats. I'm going to call on two people, if you don't mind. One of which I pre-warned. But if you wouldn't mind, maybe Caroline, would you share what you maybe are looking forward to regarding your PLC learning session?
Sure. Caroline, board. I'm just looking forward to pretty much everything. This is my first board workshop, and I had to text Mark and be like, where exactly am I going? I probably should have been more
To be fair, I told you where, and then text came after and was like.
Yeah, so looking forward to everything. It's going to be exciting, and I'm ready to learn.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to go one other that I did not pre-prompt, but Donna, would you mind, I know you're going to be part of the process, but would you mind just
I
sharing?
do not mind at all. Okay, so what we are most excited about, looking forward to this PLC session with all of you, is for you guys to celebrate. Absolutely. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yes. So the opportunity for everyone to see the greatness from our fourth grade team, what it looks like in real life on Monday morning. So we look forward to that. Just kidding.
Okay.
Be closer. Perfect.
Awesome, thank you, Donna, appreciate it. All right, we are gonna jump in then here as we get going. So really one of the focuses of today, or the big focus today, is our outcome number 4, which students will be on grade level or beyond by 8th grade in algebra. And so again, you're going to see some of the work that we are doing at the school level, frankly at the small team level, that is getting us to that work. And again, kind of just reiterating, you have seen the overarching data. You've seen the iReady data, you've seen the SBA map data. So this is already data that you've already seen. But the question that gets asked, and it's a great question, is, well, what are you doing about it? Like, how are we trying to improve upon our scores? How are we trying to increase the amount of learning that's happening within our classrooms? And really, this is what we are going to be demonstrating today. What you're going to see today is what teams do on Monday mornings to really dive into how do we affect and improve learning within our buildings. So I'm going to hand the mic all the way down to Amber here real quick.
Just trying to see how fast we can do it. All right, thanks team. All right, so our outcomes for today, we are going to experience what a Monday morning PLC collaboration time looks like with a Mission View 4th grade superstar team. You'll see here today a very high performing team. One of the key indicators that you'll see from them is their belief in student potential. They have an unwavering belief that all students can learn at high levels. And I just have to shout them out to say thank you so much for risking your comfort to be here today. We're going to deepen understanding around the common formative assessments, CFAs, and what students are learning. And we will understand how the team data protocol process and the CFAs drive the continuous improvement process for our professional learning communities. So I thought it was really important to begin with the Wenatchee School District collaborative teams. This is one of our anchor charts, our anchor documents that we continually come back to as a leadership team. We care about it because we believe that teamwork really does make the dream work, and that teamwork helps deliver on our promise. So just a quick review of the teams. The school board and superintendent, that's you. Your important team sets the direction for our district and the strategic plan. And then the next team is the district instructional leadership team. This is the team of all of our principals, assistant principals, directors, superintendent, coordinators, trainers. We're all in this room together, typically once a month on a Monday, and we ourselves build agendas where we model the work of a high-performing professional learning community, because we're setting the work to pass off to the next team, which is the school level principal and learning improvement teams. And that's where our principals and assistant principals are leading the work of their building. They're leading for learning. We know that instructional leadership and high quality instruction are the two things that have the greatest impact on student learning. So that's why we constantly have that focus on learning and results and collaboration. So at the school principal and lit team, they have set their school improvement plans. They're continually looking at the CFA results from the professional learning communities and adjusting and monitoring the continuous improvement process, and most importantly, celebrating improvement, that culture of celebration. The team that we're spotlighting today, of course, is the school grade level content team. And they will show you, they will be demonstrating the things on that list. They're going to start with team norms, their team norms and work accountability protocols. We'll certainly have a focus on student learning. They meet regularly and show up to their meetings with agendas, so they know what to expect from each other. They set SMART goals, just like the learning improvement teams have SIP goals, they have SMART goals for each unit. And they analyze student learning, seeking that best practice, learning from one another. And they monitor those results in the continuous improvement process. And then they share those results up with their principals and learning improvement teams. And of course, celebrate improvement. And so today you'll see them sharing out their common formative assessment results. And the arrows going back up shows the flow of data and products from these professional learning communities. And you'll see that today. So one of the most important things the team does is they plan for high quality instruction together. They prepare for the week for that Tier 1 First Best Core instruction.
And they also think about, well, what are, looking at our data today, what do our students need for reteaches maybe, more time and support, and or extensions. So they're doing planning for that really intentional core instruction. So I'm gonna pass it off to Betsy.
Thank you. Okay, speaking of First Best Tier 1 core instruction, you guys have a handout here that shows, it's a K-5 math instructional overview. And within that overview, you'll see 4 key strategies to improve student outcomes in math. And those are number talks, fact fluency strategies, the use of concrete, representational, and abstract in terms of concrete tools for kids to build their understanding of concepts before moving into abstract and algorithm type solving of problems, and then 3 reads, language routine. And so the K-5 teachers have been receiving professional development on these strategies for the past several years. And then in an effort to have vertical alignment, we have the 6th through 8th grade teachers have also, their math teachers have received training on these strategies as well. And we're moving toward high school, so we're trying to get this K-12 school-wide. And our goal is to develop mathematical classroom environments that nurture a productive math disposition. We want to, sometimes kids have that narrative like math's too hard and I can't do math. And we're trying to change that narrative to I can learn math and it's relevant to my daily life. And part of that is we want students to see themselves as mathematicians who take risks and who can make mistakes and overcome and persevere through challenges so that they develop that resilience as learners.
So here's what today is going to look like. So before our fishbowl starts, we're going to review some norms. So our team here is engaging in very vulnerable, authentic work. So we want to make sure we're observing with appreciation, respect, and having a learning-focused lens. During the fishbowl, the team is going to engage in a team data protocol process as if they were doing it on a regular Monday morning. And then the team is going to discuss each of our PLC questions. And then following their discussions, we're going to pause and provide some time for your questions. So you can feel free to take notes, write down any questions you have. We're going to go kind of where there's a natural pause in the conversation, and Dawn will be leading us through that portion. And then afterwards, we'll provide affirmations to honor the team's courage and for sharing their practice.
Ready? All right, so a couple of things that you're going to see in here as we fishbowl this team. There really are 3 key reflection tools for our PLC teams. So PLCs have an agenda, may or may not look like this one, but it's in general, it's going to look similar to this that helps guide their meetings. And then each of our teams also have a pacing guide that links any documents that are needed. So linked in there is a CFA, which you have a copy of in front of you. It's our common formative assessment. Also linked in there are the proficiency scales, which tell us what students need in order to be proficient in that standard. And also, as well as if they're almost proficient, what does that look like? As well as some exemplars, some key vocabulary. So those tools, along with some unit plans, are all linked into their pacing guides, which they provide feedback with every year, and we adjust based on that. And then the third tool that's gone through quite a few different versions, from paper to Google Sheets now, is the Smarty goal that shows them their data. So it pulls their data for the original CFA, and then it pulls reteach data once they've come back and retaught. And it also has at the bottom a team data protocol. So our team data protocol, you have that in front of you as well. It's black and white. Our teams focus on the 4 essential questions of a PLC, and they'll be talking through these questions today. So they'll talk about what skills proficient students demonstrated in their work that set their work apart. They'll talk about which instructional strategies helped students learn. They'll talk about what areas students were struggling in, and let's see, team students, and then what's the cause of that? So let's figure out and dig in what might have caused that. What strategies will we try next? PLC question number 3, which students need additional time and support? So that's that intervention or reteach to learn that grade level priority standard. They'll make a plan for it, and then they'll also, as they're always keeping in mind when they're planning and doing their data protocol, think about students who need that extension or extension or enrichment because they already have that priority standard. They're already proficient in that. Then the last question is, does the data show ML and or students with IEPs responding to instruction interventions and growth, why or why not? So really disaggregating that data to look down at that. So you'll see these tools along with some things that are linked in them. And then just a little history on our common formative assessments. With our district adopted math curriculum in elementary, of course they come with their own unit assessments, their own quizzes, things like that. Well, when you dig into really what makes a high quality CFA and the research to that, then we know that those are way too big. And they have way too many standards that kids are being assessed on at a time. So we know that when it comes to CFAs, we really want, or it comes to checking in on student learning along the way so that we don't wait till the end. We want to be giving these kind of mini unit CFAs that are much shorter and they're really focused on one standard. So you can really drill down where that student is struggling with that standard. So we know that CFA design is, the purpose of it is to guide our instruction. So it's not a summative where we just give it, we're done. That gives us information on what we need to do next for each student. Because we value assessment for learning, not of learning. So our CFAs have some important criteria when we had our teams build them several years ago, and then again, we always kind of go back and look at possible revisions that that have really affected students' achievement on them. So we do make some revisions each year. Our goal is to give them in one class period. So that looks a little different, obviously, in secondary and elementary. So there's a little bit more probably flexibility in elementary, possibly. So a class period, 45, 60 minutes. Of course, you're going to have some kids that might take a little longer. We really want few items, not only just because it takes a long time for students, but also we want to provide quick feedback for them. We want to turn around and intervene and reteach if we need to. So we don't want to wait till we've graded it, 2 weeks down the road and then finally figure out that we need to intervene. The questions are aligned to a proficiency scale that I kind of shared with linked in there, and the team will talk through that. And let's see, they're very much, we look at when we build the CFAs, we look at both what our math curriculum questions are, but also what the SBA questions are. So we do a good mix of both so students have some exposure to those SBA type items. And I'll just say one more thing with this team that I had shared is this is a rigorous algebra standard in 4th grade. And so when we talk about our Big 6, number 4, and we talk about the data protocol and CFAs, this team really holds that rigor at their standard. So part of the standard talks about writing an equation that matches using an unknown letter, or I'm not sure what the exact standard says, but that was something that we were always kind of missing, was having students actually write that equation with a letter for the unknown. And this team really, they're going to meet every bit of that standard, that rigor for the 4th graders. So thank you for that. All right. Okay. That's it. I think so. You're on.
Liz, they're gonna share their screen.
Okay.
Liz.
Can I ask a question? I might be thinking of this from an ELA standpoint, but maybe it's a question for you guys. How many times have they seen this test or these types of questions already? Is this the first time, or are you already done a reteach and presented it again?
We have not, this is prior to our reteach and assessment period, so it's kind of right in the middle. And just so everyone's aware, we're sort of reenacting. Yeah, we are
Gosh, learning new things.
Thank
Thank you, team. So we are in the middle of, we're actually currently teaching to our 5th CFA, and we're going to be discussing the 4th CFA today.
But because we hadn't finished the process of that, we weren't able to model that for you today. So we're kind of going back a little bit in time and modeling our first assessment of CFA 4 prior to the reteach and extend. And then after that block of time, we would do the assessment again. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Right, so we start off with our inclusive opener. Oh, resume. There we go. Okay, Janet, can you just?
Oh. What's something you want to do in the next year that you've never done before?
No, it's good.
So I just snowmobiled last weekend for the first time, so I think going on a snowmobiling backpacking trip, I think that sounds this winter.
I love it. My daughters and I are talking about going on the trip abroad together.
Probably along the same lines as you, Melanie, it's travel itself.
Love it. All right, team, thanks for sharing. Let's go back and make sure we're on the same page. Does somebody want to read our norms?
Do you want me to read all of them?
Maybe both.
Okay. Our norms are actively participate, be prepared, begin and end on time, stay on topic, respect each other's voices, and be data driven, which means celebrate and adjust as needed. And today, I think I would also be prepared.
Do we all agree on being prepared for our norm of the day? All right, we'll come back at the end and see how we can get done. Do we have a note taker for today? Awesome, thank you, facilitator. The agenda, so I'll do that one, timekeeper. Excellent, excellent, norm reader, we did it. And do we all still agree to our collective commitments? Is it right? Awesome, thank you so much. Okay. So we have already looked at this as part of our unit planning at the beginning of the unit. Everybody should have a handout with that, but we were gonna just revisit the standard together. Make sure we're on the page.
So our fourth grade is to solve multi-step word problems posed with whole numbers, having whole numbers answered using the 4 operations. And we represent these problems using an equation with a letter standing for the unknown quantity. Our assess is reasonableness of answers using mental computation or estimation strategies, including rounding. And then, let's see, on the back of the page, for our students to be proficient at a level 3, it is that they can solve a multi-step word problem. They can represent problems using an equation with a letter or an unknown quantity. They can interpret what a remainder is, and then I can assess the reasonableness of the answer using mental computations or estimation strategies, and consistently demonstrate accuracy. So that is for our math proficiency.
Thank you. And then on the bottom, we might refer to this later. Here's some exemplars from the SBA that relate to this standard. And we'll also discuss later where we might implement that into our instruction. Okay, we also wanted to just revisit the CFA.
Alright, to be proficient in our CFA at level 3, students need to represent the problems with equations using a letter for the unknown quantity, and they also need to correctly interpret that remainder. Underneath that umbrella for approaching, students need to identify the operation used in the word problem. They also can and will use concrete tools and or drawings to solve the problem, and students will solve parts of the word problem. All that for 2006.
Nice. What do we notice the main differences between level 2 and level 3?
Using
Letter giving a known the variable.
and just pushing the box into it.
Level 2 is a lot more concrete,
Mhm.
drawing.
Yeah, they're solving it, but I don't see that they're using an equation necessarily. But they are identifying the operation, well, in this case, the 2 operations needed to solve the problem. Yeah. All right, question 1. Dora buys 6 bags of beads to make necklaces. Each bag has 8 beads. Dora uses 5 beads to make each necklace. How many necklaces can Dora make with her beads? Will she have any beads left over? Show your work and include an equation that matches the story problem. We all clear on that one? Okay.
So our question number 2, our students needed to solve, there are 34 fourth grade students, 46 fifth grade students going on a trip. Each van can carry 10 students. Will 7 vans be enough to take all the students on a trip? Circle yes or no. Show how you know, write an equation that matches the story problem.
Nice. And again, our rubric is we're clear on what success looks like. Okay. Do we all agree that we reviewed the scale? Okay. And our scoring? Perfect. Are we ready to move on to our protocol? Yes. All right. Donna, were you going to share our 2-part SMART goal?
Absolutely, to help us maintain fidelity of the 4 PLC questions and model a data-driven, student-centered mindset. Let's take a peek at our 2-part SMART goal, which states in this unit, 75% of students will be able to solve whole number multi-step word problems involving the 4 operations, including problems in which remainders must be interpreted. Students will be able to represent these problems using equations with the letters standing with unknown quantity and assess the reasonableness of answers using mental computation and estimation strategies, including rounding. Students will demonstrate understanding and skill as indicated by earning level 3 on CFA 4 post-assessment given by December 12, 2025. And in this unit, 100% of students will be able to represent the problem with drawing and labels using any strategy as measured by item 1 of CFA 3 given by December 12, 2025. Pretty good. Perfect. Any questions so far?
All right. So, looking over our data for a second before we move into the protocol. Getting close to our goal. We have to teach it exciting. All right. So our first question: what skills did the proficient students demonstrate in their work that set their work apart? So for time's sake, we mentioned we have already done this, so we did put input, but we want to also discuss what we put in there. So the first thing that I noticed the majority of my students were able to do was feeling really comfortable writing a letter for the unknown, or what we eventually call a variable, and also identifying the 2 different operations needed to solve the problem, and then a lot of them are even putting in parentheses around operation 1, and then operation 2, and then like a letter for the unknown. So I have 2 students comfortable doing that, and I think that's a big celebration.
What I noticed with the unknown letters is that they used a lot of random letters. Some of them didn't match the story, but they were still able to put an unknown within it.
So what is that?
Yeah, that's mine did too. We talk a lot about maybe not using text because we don't want to confuse it with multiplication.
Yes, right.
B for beads or B for band.
Right after necklace, I had a lot of
And necklaces, yes.
Perfect. Janet, you wanna highlight how students were interested in
Yeah, they did, you know, I guess our practice tests a lot, especially the band question. And the test doesn't have a remainder, so everybody makes it on board. But in a practice test, we had students that were left over. And when we talked about, we can't leave JoJo at school. Cannot go in the field, Jonathan. Melody says you can't strap him to the top of the van. So, you know, we talked about those remainders that we're gonna have to get an extra van, you know, even though we only have 2 or 3. And when we first started the unit, students didn't know what to do with those remainders. They're just like, that's not possible, because it wasn't an even number. So, yeah, that was, it was neat to see the growth of them understanding that we're gonna have something left over, and what do we need to do with those?
Donna, can you let us know kind of where we're at right now, again, prior to the reteaching step?
As we look at our data, you know, 72.3% of current level 3, 8 to 2. 24% of current level 2, and 4% of level 1. I think that's celebration. So.
It is, that's a lot of growth from the beginning. Were you gonna talk about your Plansky County?
Yeah, I think that really bolstered my students was in the beginning, they didn't really understand because we haven't talked about division yet or haven't really touched it yet before this in 4th grade, that I taught them skip counting. Those groups helps them. I did have a few students that started skip counting by every number and not just the divisors, so we have to go back and talk about, okay, when we're looking at separating these groups out, we need to talk about universal number skip counting. But I've shared that with Janet and it really lifted up her classes.
It was really interesting, because this is one of my high mathematicians, and this is how she did the division. And I didn't really understand how to do that skip counting and that, and that's one of my low students that was able to skip
Yeah,
counting
we're
and
just-
figure out how many groups.
That's
So
so-
that was a great strategy, thanks for sharing that with me.
Yeah, I have a student here who did that as well, and just like you were talking about, most of them use the correct number, but this one kind of took that misdirect from the 7 names. So it's getting on by 7s rather than 10, because the group size was 10.
Yes.
So, but using the strategy correctly, it's good to see some 4th grade level proficiency strategies. Are we ready to move on to some of the strategies that we found were effective? So the first one I wanted to highlight was the free reads with our graphic organizer. So I really like doing the free reads with our graphic organizer. And on the graphic organizer, as part of it, it even asks what equation or symbol for the unknown number that you could represent. And I actually just started using this a couple of minutes ago so that they were used to it, because as we talked about, it's a big lift, this one, it's a big standard, and so I started incorporating that into solving those problems earlier in the year, so they were used to it. And I know I talked with 3rd grade as well, and they have done some of that. So I think that's one of the reasons we are seeing students more comfortable using that variable or letter. I think that was a really good strategy. Also in the middle school, they're using, so nice. Continuity is good.
The other thing I found that worked really well for my kids, because I work with a lot of our ELL babies, was the vocab wall this year, and investing in that has really helped my students. We sing the words at the beginning of each block, we repeat them, we block them out, and another one of our warm-ups is we pick a word and then we have to write a sentence and share it with another student. So by continuously digesting the words and using them, we're able to understand them more within our problems, which I'm finding great success.
So good, that's awesome.
And then our big shift this year is that we've incorporated that level small groups. You have that fuller groups.
I do.
And that, you know, just by, you know, creating a quick little exit ticket on Friday, that we could regroup our kids on Monday morning for a 30-minute quick reteach of last week's lesson. and kind of be more proactive instead of waiting after the CFA.
Yeah.
That we're kind of intervening a lot more intentionally before the CFA. So, I mean, it's been a lot of work, but I really feel like we're seeing some great benefits from that strategy.
I agree.
Jen, I'm gonna add to what you just mentioned, coming from the PLC conference last summer, and then you attended it the year before, that was the great aha for us as a team, coming back, bringing, and being outside of our comfort, rethinking how we can best serve these kids with the amount of time and resources and people to meet their needs, so thank you for bringing that up.
And I think it's also beneficial because when we are regrouping, the students are grading each other's work without the names, and so they're able to see those mistakes and like, oh, okay, I know why they did this, or I did this, and so it's also working on that error analysis.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that we started using the iReady weekly test and CFA to create an assessment of weekly activity that helps us sort things clearly and give them what they need. One more thing that I forgot to point out that I really wanted to shout out was our special education collaboration, and that we had borrowed a strategy from like using a t-shirt to make things simple. And step part of the problem 1, part 2, and color coding, and that helps some of our gender students as well. So I really appreciate that collaboration, and I think we saw some growth for that, and that there were no red reds in our spec. Good thing to celebrate. Let's see. I also noticed we were doing the real problems with their names in it. That was good.
They like that a lot, they feel very special when we put their names in there.
And Clever looks like snapping in the vein.
Yes.
Right. Excellent. Did we want to ask for any questions or?
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. I'm just dying to talk a little bit. It's, thank you, fourth grade team. Hey, there's just something I wanted to point out, and then I think it'd be a great idea if we just turn and talk to a partner sitting next to us. What are we wondering? What are you noticing? What's standing out to us? But something I wanted to add was, you might be saying, oh, what's the principal's role? What's the assistant principal's role in the professional learning community? And Donna is just doing a great job of modeling that role. Like for one of the first things that I saw her do was she was the one who restated the SMART goal, the SMARTY goal. And that's great to have your instructional leader uplifting that goal and helping the team stay focused. And so that's what she's doing. And then throughout, she was actually the one who repeated where they were currently. 72% have met that goal. And so there she is again as an instructional leader, showing that she values that growth, she values the learning, and just uplifting the team and the hard work that they're doing. And then the other thing I just wanted to point out, you can see this team, they have student work at the table. So student work is data, and we learn so much, and that's what they're starting to pull out, like they're understanding what strategies work for students and just those things. So those are a couple of things that I wanted you to notice, and then let's just take a minute to just talk with your elbow partner about what you're wondering and noticing, and then we can have a couple people ask or share. Go ahead. wrap up our conversations. And I'll just, Corey, what did you and your partner talk about, or what's standing out to you?
Well, one of the things that Tucker asked is he's basically wondering, so we've had Monday morning late start for a long time. How long have we been doing PLC work? And so gave him a quick little history of what it looked like when we trained a lot of our teachers in our system in 2005, 6, 7, 8, in that area. And so PLCs looked a certain way through that kind of arena, but we lost, I think, a lot of we lost a lot during that time. And so we've been on this journey since 2020. So we've had 5 years of really intense PLC work. And so I was just kind of giving them a little background. And so what we're seeing here is district-wide implementation of PLC at work. And so it's fantastic. It really talks about priority standards. It talks about the hard work that teachers are doing. The other thing that we noticed as well, and I noticed, is, oh my gosh, this is one subject area of all of the subject areas that these wonderful teachers teach. And so my question is, okay, I've asked a question. My question is, on a regular Monday morning, how many content areas are you able to discuss, and maybe how many CFAs are you able to kind of move through this process? Because it's a lot of work just to talk through one CFA on one content area. So that's just my question.
So the first part of your question was how many subjects? What might we go through? I think as we'll model here today, one planning period or one PLC period, I guess I should say, sometimes we borrow from those, would just probably cover one protocol. But we also do, and we'll model at the very end here, how we'll set our goal for our next CFA and then begin unit planning, but we are unable to accomplish all of that within the hour span. If we have 90 minutes, we do actually do more of that whole with the next unit plan. In elementary, we do math and ELA CFA, so we don't necessarily follow the same process for science or some of the other things, but we do try to align to the schedule, and for the most part, we're keeping up. Occasionally, our team does meet more frequently than some other teams. We borrow from our planning time sometimes.
Thank you.
Did that answer all your questions? Okay.
Okay. Are we ready to go back in, or just one more group want to share out?
I just have one.
Go for it, Julie.
So one of the questions I had, you had mentioned that you have seen quite a bit of growth in this planning period or this CFA compared to the first year. What were your probably the first CFA or the beginning of the year? Do you have those measurements or what numbers?
Okay, let me understand your question. So there's the different CFAs assess different priority standards. So like you could look at that data, but they're not measuring the exact same priority standard. We do have prior years data is that available today? We could look at last year's results for the same CFA with different students and years prior. So I believe, if I remember correctly, we were referencing a couple of different things. One, we had seen growth just over the past couple of years in students like writing out the two-step equation with parentheses and then the two operation symbols that they need and the variable. I guess that would be observational data, but also data that we could look at, because as you saw, Amy's part of standard, we're earning a level 3, so we could look at previous years' data. And then another thing I think that may have been referenced was in prior years, teams may not have put as much priority on actually creating that algebraic expression. It's very difficult for students and they don't have a lot of background. So I think maybe I had heard another person say it, and that teams in the past may not have put in much priority on really trying to get the students to that level. Like they were able to solve the problem and represent it and draw it, but not necessarily the equation that solved the variable solved. So I think that could have been two things that I had heard brought up, but does that answer your question?
Yeah.
into that comparing. Last year was our first year together as a team, so we were all learning the curriculum and how to work together and how to teach these standards to these CFAs. And so we're really proud of ourselves compared to last year, because last year we didn't do the level grouping. We really kicked ourselves into gear and did this level grouping, and that made an amazing change. I was very proud of that part. If you're talking about that comparing to last year as well.
I mean, yeah, all of it, there was a comment that this, when you were talking about the, how many kids were in level 2 or 3, you said this was, demonstrated growth from the beginning of the year, so I didn't know if you measured that on something.
Okay.
But that was helpful additional information.
Yeah, okay, that's a great point. So we do take like diagnostics, like iReady diagnostic, but it doesn't necessarily like disaggregate this particular standard, or I haven't gotten into that deeply. So like as far as a baseline, we did previously give the CFAs prior to instruction. We did our team has opted to omit that practice because we only have, say, 8 teaching days to do the standard. And we found that that wasn't as helpful as some of the other things that you see that we're doing up there. So we could have gotten that baseline, but we didn't opt to get that data at this time. Yeah.
I'll just share, looking at last year's data.
Yay.
That, this isn't Doc. But your initial kind of overall percentage proficiency right now for your first time giving it is what your reteach ended up being last year. So that's an, yeah, and so we look at the CFA data as evidence of strong tier 1 instruction. And so we're seeing this team, because of the amazing work they do and this process, getting those scores up there. So well done.
Thanks for looking at it.
Yeah, and then also you mentioned like the exit tickets and the word wall and the daily stuff that you're doing to assess these kids that maybe doesn't make it into this, that you're keeping up and you're moving kids based on that, which we did in ELA in 7th grade too. So it's just like everything that you mentioned is like there's so much going on that doesn't end up on the data number, and it's like, oh, you're doing so much more, but the numbers they're getting there and they're awesome.
Yeah, we can definitely see the growth, so thank you.
All right, we are moving on to our next question. In what areas did our students struggle? In which areas did our teen students struggle? And we can look at all students or all of our students, so we kind of group that together. And what's the cause and what will we try next? So for our struggles that we noticed, we did notice in our level 2s and 1s, we did notice some miscomputations or miscalculations, specifically with multiplying and dividing. And one example I see here, I think I brought this up earlier, this student that was using a skip counting strategy, he actually used the skip counting strategy correctly, but he skip counted by 7 because it asked about the 7 bands, but the group size was 10 students. So he used a strategy, but he misapplied it with regard to which number he should skip counting by.
And I just had some miscalculations just on addition. When for our 34 plus 46, I just had some kids make that quick mistake. And, I highlighted it back, and after the second time of doing it, I just said, okay, here we go. And I gave them more steps to find that answer. So they were just, a few were struggling with that addition.
Yeah, and then I'm finding, I know it's a lot of stuff to put together, but I'm finding you can see did put the first operation in the parentheses, and then I saw the second operation. They were more successful, so it's a lot to like make sense of a problem and write the equation with the letter of the unknown, and then you'll solve it. But I'm noticing the kids that follow those steps tend to be more successful than just trying to solve it and then go create an equation.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know on some of mine, I still have some students struggling with multiplication facts. So let's see, we're still kind of back at this 3rd grade of repeated addition. Instead of, those kids that could just say 6 times 8 is 48, not being really solid on those multiplication facts.
Yeah, that fluency is a big deal. If there's so many steps already and then I have to go solving that and it takes me quite a bit of time, I can forget where I am, get frustrated.
And if I don't have perseverance or grit to keep going.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I kept my mind says, keep going, you're on the right track, don't
Yeah.
stop, try again. So,
Perfect. Olivia, you noted earlier too that students who have trouble reading the problem just on their own also weren't able to make sense of the problem.
Yeah, they just got frustrated and put it out really quick, so I just chose to read the problem out loud, because math is the universal language. I'm not assessing or reading or assessing the math skills.
Nice, thank you. And I noticed we also noted that sometimes they didn't know what operation to use.
Yes.
So I know one thing we've done is that like when I'm putting things together, I'm adding with equal size groups, I multiply, separating, I subtract, equal size groups, I divide. So I think just you mentioned that earlier, chance and vocabulary, just like bringing those back up for students when they're struggling to help them.
you have a strategy in my classroom.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on, our causes, it sounds like we've identified there's some grit involved, but also back fluency, and it can contribute to that. It's a big lift, it's a rigorous standard, and then when I also do not have a quick way to figure out my basic division facts by using the inverse of multiplication, then I'm really lifting the level of difficulty for myself. So we noticed some of our students doing that. So for our next steps, we identified like definitely finding time to work on fluency. I know we do some work examples and number talks, but we do have time. Our schedule is tight, so that can be difficult for our specific team. Primarily we use that Math RTI. We're using our Math RTI time where we're regrouping students each week and identifying the students, grouping them by what they might need most and trying to support them in that way. What else did you notice?
You know, I just do a lot of repeated practice, writing the equation, solving the equation. Like, my students spend a lot of time up front with their whiteboards. And where, we could always give our higher achieving students, a little bit more difficult problem. And to keep them engaged, checking with their partner and seeing maybe where the breakdown was on the whiteboard. In those steps.
And so I want to check in on the whiteboard when we're at the carpet, we have AV partners, and I'll say, okay, A and B flip your boards, and we have to check each other's work and check for errors, and they have to then rework it. And then while we're testing, normally to check for our calculation errors, I like to highlight and go back over and say, check your work, please. I don't like to tell them what's right and wrong, or try to have them find it out. And it goes well sometimes.
I love it. Okay, so we're kind of leaning over, we've identified our next steps and that we will address that primarily in our Math RTI walk to math groups, but also maybe with some number talk, work examples and other fluency things in our limited time for that. But we have kind of moved into how we're going to respond, so I wanted to pause right here and
Could you share with the school board how you collaborate with that tier 2 team to get to the walk to math section?
perfect. So the question was how we collaborate with our IST team. We do meet every couple of weeks. We make sure that they have the CFAs and practice CFAs, and we try to share some of the best practices that we're using. And we identify students based on that, what we were talking about, our weekly assessment. And also we do, it's another other thing that we have, but typically that's it, in getting our kids with the most needs in the smallest groups. And then also students who are already like at a level 3, and I think we're gonna get to this in a minute, but we do subject units. Does that answer your question? Okay, so that data.
Yep.
The answer is data.
It's like every 2 weeks, but with our sped, it's almost weekly.
Yeah.
Like she already
She
done
tries-
this Monday PLC times with us.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the CFA when
Yeah, and we're,
we're sharing strategies.
yeah, and she's.
Collaboration is the expectation.
It is, and they are also, even if a student qualifies in math reasoning or math competition, they're also working on this priority standard at their level. So collaborating with them, with SPED is really important. And as we saw in our data, it makes a difference. Perfect. Did we have any other questions? Amber?
This just might be another good spot to turn and talk with your partner again. Just what are you wondering, what are you noticing, what are ahas? And then we can have a team chat.
And you're like, come on, seriously.
One thing I noticed, and I would love to share out, what the team is talking about here, when they're almost weekly bringing student work or an exit ticket, that's just like maybe one question, or their CFA, they're doing that weekly and they're regrouping students. The sophistication of that team, that's really where we want all of our teams, because it's that student-centeredness that they have, because they're constantly saying, what are the students' need? And they're grouping by that need, and then they're getting that, reteaching practice, and more time and support. So that's what we're all trying to grow to in our district, in all of our PLCs. So I was really glad that Donna pointed that out, and the team talked about that. That was really important. So, Maria and Mark, do you guys want to share out an aha or a question?
It was more of a question, but I think you just answered it. Monday mornings, PLC time is on a weekly basis, right? Is it the whole, 2.5 hours?
It varies. 9:60 and, yeah, go ahead.
Grouping, you just used the term grouping. Okay. I'm assuming that's where you take your level 1s, level 2s.
Yes.
How does this, there's that stigma, right, of, okay, I'm grouped with, for level 1. How do we avoid that, especially at the stage in the elementary, well, at any level really, where we are not labeling kids?
Well, great question. I think one thing is to just build that whole community of understanding of this is just where I'm at and to celebrate where I'm at, and to know that we're grouping kids with like skill sets, but like scores, but I think it does really start with your classroom environment and understanding like we're here to learn. We're all learners, so I think that's part A, is understanding that, and this score is not my worth, or it's just word of mouth, the standard this day. But we also don't call the groups 1s, 2s, and 3s. We just say which teacher they're going to, and I personally always reference it as, do your best on this assessment. It helps me know what you need, and the Yeah, that's a really great point. It's super important and something we always have to keep in mind. Did you guys have something on?
I think they should just love moving classrooms. I don't think they always connect. Alright, they're moving sometimes. They just love getting to see a new teacher and get to interact with the new students and I think the students feel very happy and successful when they are succeeding within that group because we are meeting at their level. So instead of sitting with that same class being only met at the middle and the lows have to reach high and the highs are bored, I think they feel really happy and are enjoying these changes because they can do well.
You know, I've seen this fall, you know, I can think of one child in particular that has seen 4 different groups. I mean, it's really like, they might be really strong in math and this and a little bit weaker in that. And like, again, I think we have this culture of learning, celebration of learning, that they're comfortable, just like, oh, what are you going to go see this week? They always kind of know it's a roll of dice, but we have systems.
Marie and I were talking about the positivity that you guys have brought around just the data you're sharing amongst yourselves and as you're talking to us, and I really appreciate that as you know, having kids and watching them how they interpret math. I think it's one of the hardest things for us to try to be positive about, especially when I think as they get older, they're like, I have my phone, why do I need to know math? So I really appreciate, especially Jenny, you referred to them as mathematicians in your classroom. I think that was really positive, and the way you guys are talking about it. Do you guys keep your high, medium, low groupings by teacher, or do you guys split that up so you're trading off who has the high kids, who has the?
It's week to week, we kind of decide, and we do look at a couple of the data points for the size of groups, for example, but we kind of are doing a system, but it could vary.
Yeah, you know, this is my second year being back at Fourth. I was kind of out of the classroom for a while, and then came back, and Melody's expertise of the Smarter Balance test, the FIAB assessments, and how to log in and find that stuff online. I'm not quite as comfortable or proficient as she is, and so I feel like right now she's serving that kind of the at and above students in math, and where she's really pushed them into those FIABs, 5th grade. She kind of has a different lens of how to stretch those kids. This last quarter, that's just kind of stuck with those, and I feel like last year I did not serve my children well that needed enrichment, and I just feel so pleased this year that Melody is pushing those kids and enriching those students.
It gives everybody room to grow too, because if you're the kid who already got 3 the first time around, and you think, I already know it. There's room to say, oh, I don't know everything, I can go some more. Right,
Yes,
yeah.
for sure.
There's something that will challenge you.
Yes, so thank you, those were really great questions, and thank you for your insights, team, and your student focus, you know, that you are growing all students. I love your response that you're talking about your learning community, you build that culture, that everyone has a next step. Because that is that culture that Maria is pointing out can't happen if where students feel labeled and feel sorted. And you can see the team is so intentional about building the culture that is so student-centered. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and sorry, just to add to that, this is just our walk to math time. So our main core time is they're still in their homeroom, and we have that whole mix going on. So
Yes. Core instruction is still that heterogeneous group, all levels, and that's where they're spending most of their time, getting all those high quality instructional strategies. Okay, ready to move on to the next?
perfect. Our next question, do you want to read it for us?
PLC question number 3. How do we respond if some students do not learn?
Okay, so we kind of already segmented this perfectly. One of our biggest things that we have implemented this year is those groups during our walk to math time. It is targeted around the standard. And our plan, we did team agree or disagree, but we did begin to speak about some of the things we would do. We took note of And then, we did group those kids kind of based on where they're at with their CFA skill this week, so that we can meet them where they're at and support them there. Is there anything we wanted to add for that?
We've talked a lot about that already, so.
Yeah, just one thing we have noted is, and we have talked with our administrators too, just the time needed to support fact fluency, with things like number box fact fluency things and work examples, we feel that we have given our time for the math RTI that we would have had for that. So we are struggling to get as much of that as possible, but we're trying to be creative with where we can fit that in to our core time or Mondays. But since our core is only 15 minutes, that's kind of where if something had to give and we felt we picked the biggest payoff situation for our students. Okay, so question 4, how will we extend our learning? So thank you for bringing that up already, Jen. A lot of the things, we're looking at the practice SBA questions, which are instead of FIAB, that's just focused. So we're looking for items from the practice SBA items that align to this particular standard or close to it, or that support it. In this case, like factors and multiples can support success with this standard, and any word problems that are inherent in those items. And then ways that we can print those off and have students work on or work on it together, but we also try to gamify those things by creating Kahoots or Wickets, Jeopardies, and definitely include that error analysis. And finally, creating their own problems. And in fact, that's how some of our students have earned level 4s. Oopsie. Third time's the charm. On our previous CFAs. So those blue students, created their own problem aligned to that standard to reach the level 4 on CFA. So.
Be interested to see if they can do that with this complex.
I know. Yeah, agreed.
Some probably can.
Some definitely can. Okay, so we already looked at our data, we just put it there because we were referencing it again. And I think we'll stop there for questions.
How closely tight is this to the pacing calendar?
We are currently if I understand your question correctly, we are currently on schedule, but this particular standard we retaught, and this CFA we taught, and we already did the reteaching and stuff for it. And so we are currently in the middle of the next CFA, and we'll, at the end of this year, we'll look at our next one goal. But we haven't finished this cycle yet, so we needed to use the one.
Our team stays really tight with the pacing calendar. And this is the 4th district I've worked in, and we stay really tight to the pacing calendar.
You do.
Well, that's why I asked, because if you have to go back and reteach, where does that push behind? Because I think the goal also is to go, at least at the middle school level, to where if a student's at Foothills and they transfer to Pioneer, that they'll be able to pick up where they left off, right?
Yeah.
Is that the same for elementary?
Yes, for sure. And don't get us wrong, we're always wishing we had more time. But exactly to the point you made, we have to have continuity across our schools, and students do need to be, have a chance to meet standard in all of the priority standards that we've identified. So and another thing though that does relate to that, we do have to move on, and our reteach extend is typically 2 or 3 days, but we can go back. We have to be creative, but we talked about our time challenges already, but students can pass the CFA later. I can be working with a student in a small group in March, and if they can do this, we can change their score. So That's a lovely thing about this process is even though there is a time frame, they can still go back and retest. I will be honest, it's very difficult to find time to do that, but a lot of times if you're working on something, a different standard that aligns to one they previously maybe hadn't done, you can incorporate it that way. Some students just really ask for it too, they're like, I want to do this, and so you can provide them with some extra practice that aligns to that, and some parents as well. So, you know, we're willing to meet whatever requests those are, as long as we know about them.
So I had a quick question. So you said you have 8 teaching days. I'm assuming that's like a portion of a day, right? It's not like a full school day. It's whatever math is for that day. And that includes the reteach time as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, we have about, and 8 days is not standard, but it's typical. And again, our school doesn't have a math and on Mondays, so another school might have 10 days within that window. That's on the basic calendar.
That's great. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So I noticed that we didn't talk about one other group that we do have. It's a flex group. Each week we can send different students to a staff member, an intervention specialist. So with, aside from those larger groups that we looked at, we do have some students who qualify for math intervention, so they already go to a specialist, and then we have another specialist available. We're really like, oh, this student just needs this, and we're able to communicate with that staff member, that teachers, oh, can you just work on this with them? So that's a really great thing that we've added in last year. We started doing that. So that's been super impactful as well. Okay, so do we agree that we made it to the end of our protocol for this year? All right, and then we don't have time to do our unit planning for our next CFA, but we'll go ahead and look at our SMARTY goal.
Oh, Melanie, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, you're
We're
good.
back to it. All right, so our SMARTY goal,
Do you want to do the standard and then Donna can do it?
yeah, I can do that. So we're gonna multiply a whole number of up to 4 digits by 1 digit whole number. And then multiply 2-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers using strategies based on place value and the properties of operations. Illustrate and explain the calculation by using equations, rectangular arrays, and or area models. Oh boy.
Perfect. What we're doing right now. That test is tomorrow.
So our 2-part SMARTY goal is in this unit, 75% of students will be able to multiply a whole number of up to 4 digits by 1-digit whole number using strategies such as area model, arrays, and equations, as well as multiply 2-digit numbers using strategies such as area model, arrays, and equations as measured by CFA 5 at efficiency level 3 by
It's Thursday.
representing students going from proficient and multiplying a 1-digit whole number by a 3-digit as measured by teacher per year assistant.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And that would be the time that we have. In a typical time, we would do our unit planning, the rest of the unit planning leader. And looks like we are about to finish up with our optimistic closure. So this was something I found on a website, just Snowstorm, since our students love to write notes and promo papers and do all sorts of things. They can write down what they learned on a piece of paper, wad it up, throw it, and go pick up a new one and share it with their BB buddy here. But we won't do that today. Can we revisit our standard and how we do? Sorry, our standard, our. I don't want to. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think we were very prepared until the very end where I got distracted.
Great job, Kevin. I think Jim did an amazing job being on time. I wondered why Sonny did a great job being here. Thank you, Kevin.
Awesome job, team. Thank you so much.
Okay, Hey, oh wow, thank you so much, fourth grade Mission View team. You are so appreciated, and the learning today for me, and I know for my peers, was just through the roof. I just learned so much, and I just want, let's just have some closure where we're gonna basically kind of do what Melody was talking about there. But share a highlight from your learning today. This is that chance to affirm this team for really risking and being courageous and being here today. So if you could just take a moment to think, and if and once you have that in your head, your highlight from your learning today, we'll have you share out with your partner again, and then we'll do a quick rip around and just hear from you. So go ahead, and when you're ready, share that highlight with your partner, AV partner.
Oh, is this what we started with?
Yes.
Thank you.
I know.
I can go to the last.
That's true. If you can't, yeah, so you can't put everything worried about it, but I just wanted
Love it. Sure. I usually talk all the
All right, we're gonna go ahead and, okay, anyway, I think we're gonna wrap it up here, but we're gonna have a couple people just share out. Again, thank you, team, this was phenomenal. You did an outstanding job. I know that sometimes it can be a little intimidating to sit in front of folks that not usually. It's very clearly that you're the entire focus of today, so again, thank you. But again, kind of just highlight for today, I'm gonna call on two people, so Julie, you wanna start us off here? Yeah, highlight.
I'll try to be brief, but I'm just super impressed with what we saw. Just between going through your norms, how you respect each other, your process, and the fact that you actually know what this all means, how to help serve the students. And part of me was so, I'm not sure I learned as much in terms of, I just was in awe of the process and how well you guys are doing it. And I wish that other teams could see you guys like we just did to help other teams, because I know what you're doing is in the best interest of our students. And I was happy to hear how you answered Maria's question in terms of destigmatizing groups and the kids being excited, because I think it is important that they receive the assistance they need at various levels, and how do you do that without some amount of separating here and there, but I think it's great that you keep them excited, keep them learning, the improvement seems really evident, so I appreciate you sharing this with us, and it's excellent to see.
Julie? Tucker, you wanna wrap us up here?
First I want to say, Melody, I really appreciate what you said. If I understand your question correctly, because I'm often answering questions that people aren't asking. And they get like 10 minutes and then they're like, just time out real quick. So I was like, I might have to use that. I think that, something like math as a concept can be a real struggle for a lot of kids, and seeing how you guys were able to take, one, the CFA, but also drill down into reading the question is the problem. We're not trying to test their reading right now. And some of just the other strategies were like sharing between your teaching team, allowing you to try and drill down into what is working, what people are struggling with or not struggling with, and then able to go on, even to the point of like, everyone uses a different variable, right? X is the problem. Like, those kind of things that can really trip someone up that one teacher might not even have thought about. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that's a thing that we could work on. So it was really awesome to see just how much work you guys are able to collaborate with each other, and then also the details that you're able to get into by kind of breaking it down into the CFAs, as opposed to, I'm taking SBA data and just saying, I don't know. Right? I don't know where to start, or this is what I think, or this is what I saw one kid struggle with, but like really able to break these things down into smaller chunks, and then from there even smaller chunks. So it was really great to see, and I really appreciate you guys coming in and showing us how it works, because as a parent of a fourth grader, it's always cool to see like what they're doing at school, and I think that you guys do a great job. So thank you so much.
We learn from each other.
Oh, one more thing. And also like just the structure of the PLC time, because you guys clearly have a wonderful team. I think everyone needs, kind of doesn't always have that luxury. So having that structure to also hold each other accountable, but also figure out a way to work together, because that's also, can be a struggle. So because that's the teaching and learning. Like, thank you for giving them this strategy, because it's great to be able to be constructive with your time.
Can I just say something? Yeah, oh,
This is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And our facilitator has a lot to do.
yes.
A lot to do with our culture.
Yeah, I just wanted to add too that it's just exciting, the process, that PLC process where there can be a lot of barriers. And so, but this team has figured out how to eliminate those barriers to the process so they can help kids. And my own fourth grader gets to be a benefit of this team. So that's super exciting as well, because I hear he goes to different teachers and I don't hear anything about, like I don't even know really who taught what, if they were reteaching the standard or if they're extending. And so I just thank you guys, and thank you Donna, and thank you Jeff who's not here, but you guys are you are a high performing team that I do wish everybody could watch, absolutely. This is the work, so.
All right, unless anyone else has anything else. All right.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.